Hello, Lumineers! It is time to take a rest from your quest and check on in to the Lore Keeper's Inn. I'm your host, Katie. We have finally made it to our last review of the cards of Archazia Island. So this is part of the Ultimate Guide to Limited for Disney Lorcana's Archazia Island. We have covered Amber, Amethyst, Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire, Steel, and now it's the Dual Links. So it's the last episode that we're going to be talking about the actual cards, and then the finale will be an episode where I say what my top 10 cards are, the lessons learned, some strategies, and just overall lessons learned. The final thing I will say is, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I wore a different color shirt for each ink, including this shirt is lots of colors because it's dual ink time, baby. So that's, there's someone out there that'll get a kick out of that. And if it's you, thank you. As far as how we're rating these dual ink cards, we're going to be using my rating scale. So as a little review, my rating scale is from 5 to 1 stars. 5 stars is something that you absolutely pretty much have to include. It is a good card. It doesn't have any special conditions to make it good. It's just good. Then you're going to have your 4 stars, which is a pretty darn good card. You're probably going to include it, but you might not. It's all up to personal preference, your other cards that you've pulled. We move on to 3 stars, where it's kind of like a 50-50, and it's not just like, I can't decide if it's good or bad. It's going to be good or bad depending on the other cards you've already decided to keep. You take your strongest cards and you kind of move down and start including, going down and going through. And so your 3 stars are your, I don't know, maybe not. Then we get into our 2 stars, which is conditionally include, which is like even more conditional than our 3 stars. This is going to be something where I'm basically saying it's not a never, but it's certainly not guaranteed. It's something where you are including it if either you have to based on your curve, you need something inkable, you don't have enough good cards with draft. I mean, if you think about it, you're only eliminating, this is where I do math on the fly and it gets very scary. You're eliminating 8 cards. You're getting rid of 32 cards in sealed. So, sometimes it can be hard. You end up including a 2-star card just because you're like, well, I have to. And then 1 is never include, which means that's the one you are hiding under your chair. You are putting in your bag. You're pretending it's not there. And sometimes a 1-star can even be legendary. It has nothing to do with how expensive or good the card is in the world of Lorcana. It's how good it is in limited. So sometimes, legendaries are very narrow use, and you might see some 1-star legendaries. But we're going to be doing all of the dual ink. Now, there were 24 of each of the single inks. There are 60. So I'm going to go a little bit faster just because 60 cards. We will go ahead and kick off with Rhino. So Rhino is a Amber Steel, 6 cost, uninkable. Stats are 4/7 and Quest for 2. Ability reads Destiny Calling. Your other characters get +2 willpower. So I put this one at 2-star. That is because it is expensive, it is uninkable, and I wish it was resist rather than just adding that +2. I might include it. It is nice. I won't argue that this isn't a good card. It's just knowing that there are other cards that are going to fit into my deck a little easier, and there are other cards that provide benefits that aren't necessarily as expensive. On to our next. We have our Perdita, who is an Amber Sapphire, 4 cost, inkable. And she is a playful mother with 1/4 stats, Quest for 2, and her ability is Who's Next? Whenever this character quests, you play 2 ink less from the next puppy character you play this turn. And don't be afraid, your puppy character is getting moored. Now, we've talked about this in the Sapphire episode. There is something I am calling the Puppy Pit of Peril. Not the Puppy Pit apparel, like the apparel you wear in the puppy pit. It's the Puppy Pit of Peril that the puppies fall into, because there's only 3 puppies in this set. So that makes this a 2-star card for me. I'd play her in a pinch because she is still inkable. She's still got okay stats and she quests for 2. But ultimately, her abilities are useless knowing that you only got 3 puppies. Are you going to have them? Statistically unlikely. So we have another dog here, but this one's not a puppy. And Perdita wasn't a puppy either, but we've got Bolt. Bolt is a super dog. He's a 5 cost, inkable, 3/5 stats. It's a shift card. And he has Mark of Power. Whenever you ready this character, gain 1 lore for each other undamaged character you have in play. And the second ability is Bolt Stare, which you exert him to banish chosen illusion character. So this one quests for 2. Looking at all of that, obviously the last ability with the illusions, that's going to be something not super helpful. Only 3 illusions in the set. That being said, he is his ability is pretty fantastic, especially if you pair it with a bodyguard. We've got 6 bodyguards in the set, so if you end up getting like a tuk-tuk, something like that, even without that ability, it's still pretty good to get lore for free if you have undamaged characters. So I quite like him. I did put him at a 5 stars. I think it's because he. Look at his face, look at the ability, the synergy is pretty cool. So I quite like this card, and because of that, I did rank him 5 stars. We have another dog. It's Dog City over here. She is a 3-cost inkable Peg, natural performer, Amber Emerald, 2/4, quest for 1, with the ability of captive audience. You exert her, and if you have 3 or more characters in play, you can draw a card. So this card is not terrible, but I did put her at 3 stars. So it's not guaranteed card draw. You're basically hoping that nobody challenged your characters, but card draw is rare, so that's why I put her at 3, because maybe you are including lots of 1-drops. You pulled like some really great 1 and 2 drops, so you think that you're gonna be at that point, and you're patient enough where you're like, well, maybe I'll play her on turn 4 or 5. And also, it's something where it's not when she comes into play, you have to exert her to do it. Like I said, I said on turn 3, but it's actually turn 4 that you're exerting her to use this ability, so makes it a little bit worse even. Moving on, more dogs. So this is a 7-cost inkable Tramp, Street Smart Dog, Amber Emerald, 2/6, quest for 2. 2 abilities here. Now, it's a party. For each character you have in play, pay 1 less to play this character. And House Pickens. When you play this character, you may draw a card for each other character you have in play, then choose and discard that many cards. All that being said, I did rate this as a 3-star because you can play him as early as turn 4 if you go wide and you only lose 1 character. But you have to kind of read it where it's you may draw a card for each other character you have in play and then choose and discard that many cards. So like, I don't love that. If it was pure card draw, that's really quite cool. It is not. You're basically, I call it massaging your hand, that you're basically doing kind of like altering your hand to get it to maybe something a little bit more beneficial, kind of reaching what you want to do with your deck. I don't know. So I'm pretty confident with the 3-star because, I mean, you could make this work. You have to focus on making this kind of card work, and you have to be okay with the fact that it's not pure card draw. It's more just altering your hand. This guy here is the Troubadour. He's a musical narrator, and it's a 2-cost inkable 1/3, quest for 1, and we got 2 things going on. We got resist +1, nice, singer 4. Ooh. So the reason I say that's a ooh is because there is only 5 songs in the set at 1 cost, 2 at 2 costs, and 2 at 5 costs. So resist is cool, but in other words, this card is basically useless. So he's 1 star, and that is nothing against him. He's very cute, but essentially in this set where there's not a lot of songs, I did put him at 1 star. Now we've got Wendy Darling. She is a 7-cost. She is inkable. She is a 5/7 evasive quest for 2 with the ability of Tell No Tales. Whenever one of your other characters is banished, you may remove all damage from a chosen character. She's expensive. But I did put her at 4-star because she's a pretty powerful endgame bomb. Now, bomb is a term that you'll use in Magic, but basically means it's really good. I mean, it's a card that's a problem. She's got 7 willpower, and this is a 7 willpower, and she's just flying around. This would be something you'd have to prioritize to get to. That's something I've been learning, where if you are going to put a card like this in your deck, then you need to prioritize inking and making sure that, you might not have such great starting turns because you're working as hard as you can to get to this giant flying lady. That being all together, I put her at a 4-star because I really do think she could close out a game. She's not 5-star because you really do have to be cautious of making sure you get to the point where this is beneficial. But once she's out, she's going to present quite the problem to your opponent. Now I got another singer. This one is a 3-cost inkable. Mirabelle Madrigal, Hopeful Dreamer, Amber Amethyst 1/3. She quests for 1, but she is evasive. But singer 5. So, I say singer 5 with a heavy heart here. Like I mentioned, only 5 songs. But the fact that she's evasive, that's pretty cool. I did put her at 2-star. She's like one of the lowest evasive just because she's a 1/3 and she's on turn 3. It's still good. When I say 2 stars, it's still leaning towards, I'm very heavily considering her, but knowing that I might have stronger cards that I can put in place of her, that is why I am rating her lower than I normally would an evasive card. I love this card. It is 4-cost, uninkable, Pascal, Garden Chameleon. He's Amber Amethyst, 3/3, questing for 3 with evasive. I mean, there's nothing not to like here. I mean, one could argue being uninkable is not great. So that is why he is 4 stars. But everything else, my goodness, he is just swinging around. He is questing for 3. He's a 3/3, so he's got some muscle on those little arms. He's got a good grip. Look at him on that vine. So I love a card like this. I am hoping that I can get him out and quest a couple times. That would be wonderful. So with a total of 13 evasives, that's going to make Pascal pretty powerful. He's something that you need an evasive or removal to get rid of, and there's not a lot of that going around. So he sits there at 4 stars, and I love him, and he's perfect, and I hope I pull him. We have King Candy, who is an Amber Ruby, 4 cost, uninkable, 2/2, questing for 2, with an ability that reads Sweet Revenge. Whenever one of your other bracer characters is banished, each opponent chooses and banishes one of their characters. So we have a couple caveats here. I did put him at 2. He's pretty expensive and pretty weak because there's only 5 racers in this entire set. So the synergy is a little weak for me. I'm not including him under most scenarios. Maybe if I happen to get all 5 racers and I'm including all 5. Otherwise, he's just fine. He's just a fine card that's pretty expensive and uninkable. But this card is inkable. We have Penny. We talked about Penny the Orphan. This is Penny with parents. So Penny is Bolt's person. She's a 2-cost inkable, 1/2 stats, quest for 2, and her ability is Enduring Loyalty. Enduring Loyalty. When you play this character, you may remove up to 2 damage from chosen character, and they gain resist +1 until the start of your next turn. So this is a one-time ability. I love persistent effects. This one is not a persistent effect, but I did go ahead and rate her at 4 because she has healing, she has resistance, she quests for 2, and those are all quite nice things. She's not strong and she doesn't have a lot of willpower, but she's got enough benefits where I am highly, highly, highly considering putting her in my deck. So as a result, Penny the with parents is higher than the Penny without parents, and that feels bad, but it's the way it is. Just so you know, there's a Penny the Orphan in Sapphire. I'm not just like being weird and talking like, oh, Penny didn't have parents. It's a separate card. But anyway. So we have Fix-It Felix, who is an Amber Ruby. He is a 5-cost, inkable, pint-sized hero at 4/4, quest for 2, and his ability reads, let's get to work. Whenever you return a racer character from your discard to your hand, you may ready chosen racer character. They can't quest for the rest of the turn. Once again, it is super important to point out that there are only 5 racers in the set. So we are still, unfortunately, in the world of talking about just limited, and we are limited to the cards in the set. He's a little expensive, so I did put him at 2 stars. If he rounds out my deck, he does quest for 2. His stats aren't the worst in the world, so I might include him, which is why he is sitting there very, very delicately at 2 stars, kind of hanging from whatever this blue thing is, and also hanging on to possibly being in the deck. Now we got another dog. This one is Thunderbolt, the Wonder Dog. He's a 5-cost inkable with a stat line of 3/7, quest for 2, Amber Sapphire, and he's got Puppy Shift, which is a very cute term. So he can shift onto any of your puppies. Reminder, there's only 3 puppies in this set, but he's got Bodyguard, and you know I love Bodyguard, and he's questing for 2. So I did rank this 4 stars. And I was excited for a second because I'm like, I ranked him really high. He's 4 stars, and that's only because you're not going to probably get to do the shifting ability. But otherwise, he's really, really great as far as that having the Bodyguard in a 7 willpower and questing for 2. So big fan of him. The only thing that's a downside is just the fact that you're probably not going to be able to shift him. There's only 1 puppy that I would maybe play. And you definitely never want to play a card just because you're like, well, I have the shift target. I might as well have this. But otherwise, yeah, this is a very strong card. And 7 willpower could be incredibly disruptive in the late game when he's a Bodyguard because they have to put in a ton of work to get around him, or through him rather. Now we're back in racing country here. We have Calhoun, who is a 6-cost inkable, Amber Ruby 5/5. She has a shift 4, quest for 2, and her ability reads back to start positions. Whenever this character challenges another character, you may return a racer character from your discard to your hand. Still only 5 racers. It feels like a lot because we've already kind of buzzed through so many of them. It's such a fast speed here. She's a 2-star here. And that's because she's not irredeemable with the fact that she's a 5/5 and she's quest for 2. So she's not like useless. but in limited, she has a very limited impact. Back into the doggy city. I love that all the dogs seem to be dueling. I love that we're resplendent with dogs. And this dog is a 5, uninkable. This is Lady. She is an Amber Emerald, Miss Park Avenue, stat line of 4/4, and she quests for 2, shift cost of 3. Her ability is something wonderful. When you play this character, you may return up to 2 characters, cards with 2 cost or less from your discard to your hand. I love this card. I put her at 5 stars, not because of the shift, because there's only 1 shift target, but there's 49 characters that are 1 or 2 cost, and that's essentially card draw, because you're likely going to have, if you time this right and make it work to your advantage, you will have some little guys in there. If they're inkable, that's some free ink to ink past this turn. So I quite like this card. I would be including her, and pretty much guaranteed if I pulled her. And the fact that she's a 4/4 questing for 2 means she's a healthy young lady. So big fan of this card. On to another doggy. This is Pongo, 6, uninkable, Amber Sapphire, 5/5, questing for 2, and his ability reads, found you little rascal. At the start of your turn, look at the cards in your inkwell. You may play a puppy character from there for free. We've been in it before, and we're in it again. It's the Puppy Pit of Peril. So I do love this guy, but he is 2 stars because he's nearly useless. He does have a decent body, and he is questing for 2, but he's expensive, and he is uninkable, and you're not going to be able to use that ability. So unfortunately, this is just one I could not rate higher than 2 stars. Out of puppies and into industrious mice, we have a 3 cost inkable Perla. She's a nimble seamstress in Amber Emerald, and her stats are 3/2, questing for 1. She has evasive and support. At a 3 strength, support is pretty gosh darn good here. I also really quite like that she's evasive. She only quests for 1, and her body is 2 as far as her willpower goes. I ranked her at 3. I probably should have ranked her at 4, so now I'm kind of like, So a few of these I ranked, and then now I'm like, you know what, evasive is pretty cool. But knowing that she's not the strongest of the evasive, and she's got support, which is good, I'm going to put her at 3.5, which still keeps her at 3. We have another Madrigal. We have another Mirabelle, rather, and a Madrigal. She's a 6 cost inkable Mirabelle Madrigal, musically talented, Amber Amethyst, 2/6, shift of 4, quest for 2, and her ability is her own special gift. Whenever this character quests, you may return a song card with 3 cost or less from your discard to your hand. It's a bummer. We're falling into that kind of trap of a niche card with a niche ability. So there's only 1 shift target, and it's a 3 cost. There's 5 songs, but it's nearly useless. She is redeemed by her willpower of being 6. So at least if you play her, she's going to hang around for a bit. However, I did rank her at 2 stars, just knowing that the song thing's not probably happening. What are the likelihoods I have the song? I want to get it back. It's when she quests, it's not even on play, so it's not even guaranteed I'm going to get her. I mean, the fact that she has a 6 willpower means she's probably hanging around and getting to quest once. But she's just a 2 star just because I'm certainly not playing her on the value of her on her own. She's just going to be a filler card for me. Now, it's kind of weird because normally you do all the characters and then the actions and the items, but the way that they did the dual colors is that it's like Amber, you go through all the different ones, and then, I don't know, it's kind of weird. You'll have to see a diagram, but basically by the time you get to Steel, there's no dual because the last dual inks are in Sapphire, because Sapphire has Sapphire Steel, and Amber has the most dual inks because it's got all the dual inks combinations. But either way, we are on to our first action in the dual ink category, which is Restoring the Heart. 1 cost, inkable action, and it reads, remove up to 3 damage from chosen character or location, draw a card. We know there's no locations, but we know there's characters. And the 3 greatest words you'll ever hear in Lorcana, draw a card. It's 1 cost. I put this as it's a solid 5 star for me because I can't imagine a situation where I'm not including this. I like to heal. Healing is not the most important thing in the game, but drawing a card is great, and it's one ink. So just getting to be able to draw a card and the healing's nice. I'm not going to say no. So I can't. Bomb generally means that it's going to win you the game. This card is not going to win you the game. But if we're talking about how likely I am to include it, it is a 5 star for me. We have a song, one of our 5 songs in the set. It is a 5 cost, inkable. Amber, Amethyst, and it's the Family Madrigal action song. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may reveal up to 1 Madrigal card and put up to 1 song. And put them in your hand. Put the rest on the top of your deck in any order. This is another one where there are 5 songs and only 5 madrigal, so it's expensive and likely useless, making it a 1-star. So I can't imagine putting this card in my deck just due to the fact that what's the likelihood that the fact of I got 1 madrigal in my deck that it's going to be there is kind of just, it's silly, it's expensive. So unfortunately, for the purpose of limited, it is 1 star. So we have Jafar here, who is a 4-cost inkable. He is Amethyst Steel, newly crowned, 2/4, question for 2, and his ability is, this is not done yet. During an opponent's turn, whenever one of your illusion characters is banished, you may return a card, or rather that card, to your hand. This is when we go back to data here. This is a card where there are 3 illusions in the set. I feel like there is more, but there simply is not. So the value is just going to completely come from the fact that he quests from 2 and that he's inkable and he's a 2/4. And that makes him a 2-star card just because the ability is probably not going to happen just due to the unlikelihood of me having the illusions and timing it right where it all works out and I get to take advantage of this ability. So pretty cool card, but I think illusions aren't going to really take off until we get into Jafar's Reign of Jafar, next set. We have another bad guy. This one is a 6-cost uninkable. Hades Fast Talker is an Amethyst Ruby for 6, questing for 2. And his ability is for just a little pain. When you play this character, you may deal 2 damage to another chosen character of yours to banish chosen character with 3 cost or less. I did put this at 2 stars, and that's for a couple reasons. You have to deal 2 damage to yourself. Then you have to banish something that's 3 cost or less, which aren't the scariest characters. He's not unplayable, but it's a lot of build-up and pretty late in the game for something that is not super high power. I'm not super afraid of the 3 cost or less characters. So it is removal, which is rare in the set, which is why I put him at 2, but it's removal with a lot of hoops to jump through. We have another Amethyst Ruby card who is a 4-cost inkable Madame Medusa Diamond Lover at 3/4 and quest for 1, and her ability is Search the Swamp. Whenever this character quests, you may deal 2 damage to another chosen character of yours to put the top 3 cards of chosen player decks into their discard. So you're dealing damage to yourself. And do you want to do that? I don't. So I put this one at 2 stars. And that's just because you're not doing this until turn 5 because she has to quest. It is not an on-play ability. In Lorcana, limited or not, any time that an ability is going to happen, it's really great when it comes into play and it just does it. If you have to wait a turn, then it's going to kind of weaken the strength of that ability. And this is also ability I don't want to do. I don't want to hurt myself. And how much do I really want to discard their cards? Not that much. So unfortunately, this one it's not unplayable, but I don't love it. So 2 stars for her. Now we go into this is a big lady. This is a 10-cost inkable. So she's inkable, thank goodness. But she's 10 ink. She's 12/12. We got Amethyst Ruby, Teika, Elemental Terror. She quests for 3. Now, she does have a shift of 7, so maybe you have the other Teika. But Ancient Rage, during your turn, whenever an opposing character is exerted, banish them. But there's only 5 ways to exert. There's only 5 other cards that'll exert an opponent. Only 1 shift target who is a 6-drop, so you'd be playing it turn 6 and this is turn 7. So basically, I put this at 1 star because if you can pull this off, tell me, because then I'll give you $1 because that is impressive. But I think it's going to be very, very hard to pull this card off. It's very cool. I will say I put Goofy the Knight, who I think was 9 inkable, into every single one of my sealed decks just because I loved him. And I'm like, what if? And the answer is it's not going to happen. But man, what if? Now, getting back to a more appropriate size glimmer, we have a 3-cost inkable Giant Cobra, Ghostly Serpent, Amethyst Steel, 4/4. Quest for 1 has Vanish, which is an ability that all illusions have, where if an opponent chooses his character for an action, you banish him. And he has a mysterious advantage. When you play this character, you may choose and discard a card to gain 2 lore. I did rank this one at 4-star because it's something where you don't have to do the ability. It's a may, meaning that worst case scenario, this is a 3-cost 4/4 that quests for 1. But it could give you that little boost of lore gain if you're playing at the end of the game when you're just trying to just close it out and you have a card in your hand. For example, if you have this 7-cost on inkable and you're I'm not getting there. I didn't get any ramp. I'm certainly not getting to play this card. Then suddenly you can turn that card into 2 lore. So that because of the versatility and that boost, it is going to be something that I would rank at 4 stars. Something that I would highly consider putting in my deck to kind of see. Anytime you get that instant lore boost, I'm intrigued because I think that is a fun way to have undisputed lore just appear. After that, we do have our next card, which is a 5-cost, uninkable Kronk, who's laid back, Amethyst Emerald, 4/4 stats with questing for 2. He has Ward and the ability, I'm loving this. If an effect would cause you to discard 1 or more cards, you don't discard. Now, we do know discard is the bane of all, like everybody, no one likes discard. However, I did rank this at 2 stars. It's not unplayable, but it's expensive and the effect likely won't matter. Discard is not super prevalent in this set, so this is something where I don't want to include. I'm not afraid of Ward very much because there's not a lot of things that can be targeted actions and songs, things like that. So knowing that he's pretty useless, I feel bad. Kronk, you're perfect, but unfortunately, yeah, he's going to be 2 stars in this set for limited. Now we have a 3-cost inkable, Mother Gothel. She's a Vein Sorceress of Amethyst Ruby. Stat lines is 1/4, and she quests for 1 with an ability of Now You've Upset Me. Whenever one of your character challenges, you may move 1 damage counter from a chosen character to chosen opposing character. We have talked about in other videos that there is not a lot of removal, so you have to get creative with things like resist and support and moving damage. So moving damage is very cool because you can kind of tilt the scales where somebody's like, oh, well, my character's going to survive, and then Mother Gothel is on the board, and then something challenges and you're allowed to move 1 damage. Because of that sneaky removal aspect, I would put her at 3 stars. I'm going to include her if it makes sense, if I have room for her. But the fact that she has that move damage ability makes me super tempted because I have had situations where people do the math and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm good. And then something like this tilts it where you're not good. I'm moving damage and get out of here. The next card here is a 5-cost inkable. It's an Amethyst Sapphire Sven Kenai Reindeer. He is a 2/6, and he has Rush, which we have gone over. There's only 3 characters with Rush, so that's pretty cool. And he has the ability of Formidable Glare. When you play this character, chosen character gets -3 strength this turn. And he also quests for 1. So I love his willpower. I'm a big fan of Rush, knowing that it can catch your opponent off guard. So I did rank him a 4-star card. Now, he does only go in for 2, but that really still can be good. He can come in, rush, do some damage, and then one of your other characters can do something else. I do like that he comes in like a wrecking ball, and then he has got that 6 willpower where he'll probably be around at least to the next turn. So big fan of Sven, and also he looks very serious, and I appreciate that. This card, every time I see it, I go, because he's going, so this is Diablo. He is a Spiteful Raven, Amethyst Emerald, 2-cost inkable, 1/2 stats. He quests for 1, but he's got evasive and Challenger 2. So this bird comes at you and he's like, coming at you for 3. Diablo, how could you look at this card and not like it? So he is a 4. He is a 4-star for me. It's not a lot of early evasives. So this guy might be on the board and just like going, for a very long time. So he's a very valuable card to me. And so because of that, I really like him. So I'm likely putting him in my deck. We have a 1-cost next. It's a 1-cost inkable Merlin Clairvoyant. Merlin the Clever Clairvoyant. He is a 0/1 Amethyst Sapphire with, I'm not going to say that. It is whenever this character quests, name a card, then reveal the top card of your deck. If it's the name card, put it into your inkwell, face down and exert it. Otherwise, put it on the top of your deck. He quests for 1, but speaking of 1, he's a 1-star because look at that. How are you going to know what card's on top of your deck? Maybe if you have another card where you're able to do that, like there's a few cards where I think Dawson, but like, come on, if he is only good if he's paired with another card, then suddenly I don't like him. So especially because what if it's a card you want? Long story short, 1 star. I'm not doing this in this format. It's too much for me. So we had a 1-cost, but now we are pumping up to 7. This is a 7-cost inkable. It's Yzma above it all. She's an Amethyst Emerald, 3/8. Shift cost is 5. She has evasive. However, she also quests for 2, but her ability is whenever another character is banished in a challenge, return that card to a player's hand. Then that player discards a card at random. Now, you might say another character, that's not bad, but it's just any character. So it could be one of yours and then you have to discard something. I don't want to discard anything because of the fact that it's whenever another character is banished. Like I had to read like 3 times. So I'm like, are you kidding me? Because like what if you make me discard something that I really, really like? So because it impacts me too, I don't like to play this card, especially not unlimited, where I don't have a plan other than like play the cards I pulled and suddenly I'm discarding one that I pulled. So she's a 1 star. I really think she could be fun maybe in other formats, but in this kind of format, I do not want to get rid of any card, especially not because I did it to myself. We have a 7-cost unankable Elsa. She is an Amethyst, Sapphire, Ice Maker, 5/5, quest for 2, shift cost 4, and her ability is Winter Wall. Whenever this character quests, you may exert a chosen character. If you do, and you have a character named Anna in play, then return. The chosen character can't ready at the start of next turn. So basically, she's tapping it down like an Elsa is known to do, but Anna could keep her held down. But then we have to be realistic. How many Annas are in the set? And the answer is 1. So I would rate her at a 2-star, and that's just because she's a 7-cost unankable. So I really don't want to include her unless I have to. I do like that you could exert something. There are 2 Elsas in the set, so you could. There's only one. There's 2 Elsas in the set, 1 shift target. So the other shift target's a 2-cost, but you can't play this till shift 4. So just all that being said, she is a 2-star to me just because it's a lot of things to do. I'm probably not going to have the other Anna, or I'm not going to have Anna, and I'm probably not going to have little Elsa. So it's just a lot to pull off. And we have another Amethyst Emerald, 4-cost uninkable. It's Kuzco Panic Llama, which is a 2/2 evasive and quest for 2, and it has a fun little ability here of we can figure this out. At the start of your turn, choose 1. Either each player draws a card or each player chooses and discards a card. So this is card draw. Now it's shared card draw. It's our card draw, which I don't love sharing. However, he's evasive. I think it's a 4-star for me because it's something where if I get to the point where I'm like, I'm tired of this, then I can maybe like crash him into something and use him because I'm like, I don't want to make you discard because I have to discard if you discard, and you have to draw if I draw, and you have to choose each turn he's in play. So it's one of those things where I think you can use it to your benefit and then eventually just be like, I'm tired of this, and then banish him by challenging into something. So he's a 4-cost. There is application here. You're just gonna have to be very smart about how you do it so you're not basically giving your opponent unlimited benefit. So here's that Anna I was talking about. She is a 4-cost inkable, Amethyst Sapphire, Icebreaker, stats are 2/3, questing for 2. She has support, and her ability is Winter Ambush. When you play this character, chosen opposing character can't ready at the start of the next turn. They have to already be exerted. This doesn't exert it. It's just they can't ready now. So it's a fine card. I think this is one where I have it rated at a 4-star because support plus keeping an exerted keeping a character exerted and questing for 2. I like all of those things. So she's something I'm highly likely to include in my deck. I mean, it'd be cooler if she was stronger, but 2/3 is fine, and having that support is pretty cool. Now, do keep in mind, it is only when she comes into play. This isn't a recurring effect, but still pretty cool. Now we got Big Flying Lion. This Big Flying Lion is a 7-cost inkable. He's Mufasa. He is an Amethyst Steel 5/7 among the stars, shift 5, evasive, quest for 2, resist 1. I mean, my goodness, shall I go on? So I put him at 4 stars because, you're probably not shifting him. There's only 1 shift target. It's a 4-cost, and it's like not that impressive of a card. And you'll likely have to wait to play this. But if you do play him, he has a big problem. If you can get him out on turn 7, and then he's got that 7 willpower, and he's got resist 1, and he's questing for 2. So he's just flying around and being like, take me down, you can't. So I really, really, really quite like this card and put him at 4 stars, just knowing that he is going to be a huge problem. Like I said before, if you're going to play a big card like this, make sure you're prioritizing to make sure you get to the point that you can actually play this card. Now we have an action of Restoring the Crown, which is a 6-cost, uninkable, and it is Amethyst Steel, and it's exert all opposing characters. Whenever one of your characters banishes another character at a challenge this turn, gain 2 lore. This is one that is a little tough. Unlike the last one where I'm like, no, I can make this work. I did put this at 2-star because it's very hard to pull off. Maybe you like the thrill of all of it, that like, I think I can do this. I don't know. I'm not building a deck around it. Maybe you can, and I'm saying that it's an option. It could be pretty cool, but I did put it at 2 stars just knowing that it's not an option I'm taking because that is really expensive and uninkable and scary. Now we've moved out of the Amethyst world and we are into Emerald. This first card here is a 6-cost inkable Emerald Ruby 3/5, and it's the Unruly Eccentric, quest for 2, and has Unbirthday Present. Whenever a damaged character challenges another character, you may draw a card. As you know, card draw is amazing. However, I put it at 3 stars. That's because it's pretty expensive and it's late game card draw. It has to be a damage character challenging another character. Now it's whenever it happens. So it's not just your damage character. It's whenever this is happening. So it could happen, you know. I don't know if it will. You'd have to make it work, and then it's late game card draw, like I said. So I did put him at 3 stars just because there is a benefit there, but it's not something that's like early game. It's something that's going to be, you have to work your way up to it and then take advantage of the ability and make sure you're paying attention to those triggers. And then your opponent also might try to work around it by not using damage characters to challenge. But we have more Damage Matters cards. This is a damage card where we have a 5 cost, uninkable, Queen of Hearts, unpredictable bully. She is Emerald, Ruby, 2/6, shift 3, quest for 2, and her ability is if I lose my temper. Whenever another character is played, put a damage counter on them. I don't love that because it's just any character, and I don't know. It's stressful. I put her at 1 star. So she's 1 star to me because there's only one shift target, and I literally quite put too stressful for me because I don't love the ability of I'm putting damage on my own characters. Obviously, there's cards where damage matters. Damage is something that helps boost your other abilities. But knowing that she's got quite a large willpower, so this ability could end up hurting me if I want to play little weenie guys later. So I don't like her. So 1 star for me for limited, just because it's too much unpredictability. Moving on to a 7 cost inkable, we have Hiro Hamada, who is Emerald Sapphire Armor Designer. He is a 4/6, questing for 3, shift cost of 5, and you can be way more. Your Floodborn characters that have a card under them gain evasive and ward. So basically, if you shifted, they're kind of wording it weird because we have that universal shift ability now and puppy shift. Basically, your Floodborn characters that you use some kind of shifting ability to get to them, they now have evasive and ward. So evasive obviously is very cool, but this is a lot of words for me to say that I think it's a 2-star card in limited, and that's because there are 16 Floodborns. This one has 1 shift target. 15 Floodborns have shift target. So basically, this is just Magical Christmas Dreamland of like, are you going to be able to fire this off, you think? I don't think so. I'm putting him at 2 stars because, I mean, he is a 4/6. He does quest for 3. He is inkable, so he's not useless. But his ability, all that, let's be realistic. I don't think that's going to happen, but it might. I don't think so, though. And we have another Emerald Sapphire who is a 2 cost inkable. It's Yokai Intellectual Schemer. He's Emerald Sapphire, 1/2, the quest for 1, and his ability is Innovate. You play 1 less ink to play characters using their shift ability. Once again, my note here is just nearly useless because what are the odds that you're going to have the ability to be shifting around? It's hard enough to have one of Floodborn, let alone the Floodborn plus a shift target, let alone have it sequenced where you can do that in a deck where you only have like 1 copy of each card. Mind you, you can have as many copies as you want in limited, but let's be realistic. So knowing that he is, as I say, nearly useless, he is 2 stars because his only usability is that he is inkable. That's pretty cool. But otherwise, no, I'm not playing him. I love the art on this card. This is his little like, I love it. It is a 5 cost, inkable, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Strange Story Tales, Emerald Ruby, 4/4, questing for 2, and he has an ability of another recitation. It's whenever this character quests, you may return chosen damage character to their player's hand. So this card is a little bit different. I think this is a 4 cost because it's a tempo card, meaning that when he's questing, you get to return a character to your opponent's hand if the conditions are met. So obviously you got to make sure you're sequencing things correctly. But knowing that there's quite value in having tempo plays, tempo means that you're slowing down your opponent and gaining advantage by kind of slowing them down. That I think there's value here. But speaking of shifts that can happen, this is a shift card where I've been like, shift, it's not going to happen. What if I told you there's something called universal shift? And we have a 6 cost, uninkable, and it's Emerald Sapphire Baymax, giant robot, stats are 5/5, and it has universal shift, which is like the answer to all shift anxiety, where you can pay 4 to shift him on anything. And he has ability that's functionally improved. When you play this character, if you use shift to play him, remove all damage from him. So he's also questing for 2, so he's really doing it all. And he's an uncommon, so like you have a higher chance of pulling him. He is a 5 star to me, and that is because healing, questing for 2, nice body, nice body. He quests, he's a 4 cost as well with the shift, and he's healing whatever underneath it, so you can like do this big meaty challenge, and then you got this really nice guy. So man, I hope there's one in every single one of my packs. It's possible. He's uncommon. It could happen, but either way, big fan of this card. It removes all my anxiety from shift because he can be anything. We have another 5-star. I'm burying the lead here. I know I'm not supposed to do that, but I'll say it again like it's a surprise. But this card is a 4-cost, inkable, Gizmo Duck suited up. It's an Emerald Steel 4/3 with resist 1. And this one has Blathering Blather Strike. I don't know if that's how he says it. That sounds like something a duck would say. But this character can challenge ready damage characters. So I did talk about how I don't love like the queen dealing damage all over the place. I do really like challenging ready characters, especially if they're trying to hold it back for some reason. That, you know, maybe it got damage on it, but they're holding it back, so they're going to do something cool with it later. And this what do you call that? A unicycle duck? This unicycled mecha duck can come in and go, and he's got resist. So the fact that he has resist, quite cool, especially if you pair it with some kind of card like Amethyst Coil that can move damage onto characters. So I put it at 5 stars just because I quite like anything with resist in this set. Now we're out of the 5 stars, but this one's still good. It is a 4-cost, inkable. It's Fidget the Sneaky Bat. He is an Emerald Ruby 2/3 questing for 2, and he's got evasive and an ability that says, I took care of everything. When this character quests, another chosen character of yours gains evasive, and he'll start your next turn. And it's till the start of your next turn, which I always love that because, you know, it floats for a whole turn. I know evasive doesn't mean you're floating, but that's what I'm feeling. So I did give him 4 stars. So, you know, evasive itself is great, and he can give evasive. Like, thank you, Fidget. That's really nice of you. The only thing that brings him down is that he's a 2/3, so he's not the beefiest little bat boy, but he's doing as much as he can. So I would very, very likely include him in my deck. Now we have look at him. This is a 3-cost, uninkable. It is Mr. Smee, and he's a captain. He's been promoted. Don't know what that means about what happened to Hook. We don't know. But he's an efficient captain, and he is Emerald Steel 3/3. He quests for 1, and he has the ability that reads, Pipe up the crew. Whenever you play an action that isn't a song, you may ready chosen pirate character. And now back to reality, where we talk about statistics, and there are 9 pirates, 12 actions, so it's probably useless. So then we're like, okay, so it's a 3/3 that's uninkable, and you're probably not going to be able to do its ability. So unfortunately, he is a 2-star, and that's just because what are the odds? The odds aren't good. But he is very cool looking. We got another pirate. It's Pirate City over here. This one's an 8-cost inkable. It's John Silver, Vengeful Pirate, and he is also an Emerald Steel. He is 6/4, quests for 2, and has 2 abilities. He has Drawn to a Fight. If opposing character is damaged this turn, you may pay 2 less to play this character. He's got Resist +1, and then his second ability is I Ain't Gone Soft. Whenever you play an action that isn't a song, you may deal 1 damage to chosen character. So he is someone that I did rank as a 3-star. With the damage ability, I mean, you can obviously sequence it where that you're able to get that first ability. Now, the action part, like I said, there's only 12 actions that aren't songs, so that part's not super great. But him as a 6-cost with resist, it's not bad. So that's why he's 3 stars. I might include him. I'm not in love with him, but I do like him, and I see his merit as a card. We are in Pirate City. We got the whole crew here. The third pirate here is a 6-cost inkable. It is Pete, Space Pirate, and he is also Emerald Steel. I guess the piratey of all color combos. He is a 5/5, shift cost of 4. He quests for 2, and his ability is Frightful Scheme. While this character is exerted, opposing characters can't exert to sing songs, and your pirate characters gain resist +1. And again, back to reality. You know, there is 5 songs. There is 1 shift target. There's only 9 pirates. He's 2 stars. It's just not a good pick because, you know, what are the odds that all of these things are going to happen? And like I mentioned, not so good. That's just not so good. So it's not impossible. He is inkable. He is questing for 2. So he's certainly not useless. He's not going under my playmat where I banish cards that are 1 star. But he is definitely not a must keep for me. So I'm already laughing because of my note, basically. So my note on this one is what I'm giggling at. It is a 3-cost. It is uninkable. It is an action called Inkizer. So Emerald, Sapphire, and it reads, each player exerts all their cards in their inkwell. Then Each player with more than 3 cards in their inkwell returns cards at random from their inkwell to their hands until they have 3 cards in their inkwell. So the note that I put on this is, if you are a person who loves long matches and making enemies, then play this card. And I say that because, like, oh my god, like, because I mean, it is only cost 3, so it's not like the most expensive action in the world. But you know, it's 2 stars just because I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to do that to myself, because, you know, this card works great in a deck where you have a plan. But when you don't have a plan, you're just doing chaos for chaos sake. And that is fun. I personally rated Donald, the one where you have to get a 25, kind of high, because I thought that's funny. And sometimes things are funny and you should do it because it's funny. But I don't think this is funny because I suffer. And I don't want to suffer. So I ranked this one at 2. But like I said, if you think this is fun, you should do it. Don't do it against me though, please. Now we are into Ruby. We are cruising. We're getting through things here. We have a Denai, who is a 3-cost, inkable, impatient hunter. Ruby Steel, 3/2, and he's got a couple things going on. He's got Reckless, meaning that he's not quested. He is challenging every turn if he is able to, and he's got Resist 2. I've mentioned this a few times. Resist is very, very good. So I did rank him at 3 stars because I'm very likely to keep him solely based on the fact that he could be removal, coming in and dealing, challenging things that have 2 strength. Sorry. 2 strength, because then he's not going to take any damage. You have to lean into him with something that's going to get past that resist in order to get rid of him. So he is going to be a valuable card at slowing down your opponent and also possibly doing some removal where he is surviving and doing it a couple times if you do it right. Ooh. There's a few cards where I've gone, ooh, and this is definitely one of them. This is one of the first cards we saw. It's beautiful. Compliment Sandwich Time. It is a 9-cost inkable Belle Mechanic Extraordinaire. She's a Ruby Sapphire, 7/7, shift cost of 7, questing for 3. Wow. But her ability is Salvage. For each item card you have in your discard, pay 1 ink less to play this character to shift her. And then Repurpose. Whenever this character quests, you may put up to 3 item cards from your discard on the bottom of your deck to gain 1 lore for each item moved this way. So I'll be honest, I put her at a 1 star. It's a bummer, but she only has 1 shift target. There are 14 items, and they're not all items that are must play. And then if you do play them, it's because you want to keep them. You're not trying to banish them, and these items have to be in your discard for this to give her the discard. So it's just a big bummer that just in limited, this is wow. Do you want to put in that much work for this card? And the answer is you probably shouldn't, because that my number 1 rule is don't get cute, and you're getting very cute if you're trying to pull this off. But yeah, I will say the art is good. Compliment Sandwich over. Art good, card bad. For limited, art good again. But speaking, you know, if you like Belle, the art on this card speaks to me, because look at that little boulder of a boy. It is a 4-cost inkable. It's the Beagle Boys, Small Time Crooks. They are also Ruby Sapphire. 3/3, questing for 2, and the ability is Hurry It Up. Whenever this character quests, chosen character of yours gains Rush and Resist 1 plus Resist 1 this turn. So I love Rush, and we've only have 3 Rush characters in this set. So I ranked him at 4 stars, knowing that you could use this to your advantage. I mean, his stats alone are pretty nice, but the ability of whenever he's questing, you are giving that rush to another character that you play this turn. So if you are playing some kind of big beefy bodies later in the game, and then you're questing with this, suddenly it is a big beefy body that's flying fast and has Resist 1. So I do quite like this card, not only because of that little beagle he's about to throw, but just because you could use this as some removal in a pinch. Improvisational removal. So we have Li Shang here, who is a 3-cost, uninkable. He's newly promoted. Congratulations. He's a Ruby Steel, 2/3, quest for 1, has 2 abilities of I Won't Let You Down. This character can challenge ready characters. Nice. And enormous responsibility. While this character has damage, he gets +2 strength. I ranked him as 3 stars because it's great if you have space for him in your uninkables, because this is something where you could challenge into something little, and then your next turn, hopefully he survives. But after he has damage, then he becomes a 4/3. So I like him. I think he's pretty good. Once again, he's a 3 star just because I don't know if you have room for him in your deck, but if you do, he could be quite nice. And challenging ready characters is great, because sometimes people put down like a card where they're like, hoo-hoo, I'm going to get to quest with this next turn. And Li Shang can say, absolutely not. Not on my watch. So now we're back to uh-oh characters. And I say uh-oh because it's one where, my goodness, the hype is so real on this card. So pretty. I love it. But it is a 6-cost, uninkable beast. He's a frustrated designer. Ruby Sapphire, 5/5, questing for 2. And he's got I've had it. So you exert him, you pay 2 ink, and you banish 2 of your items. Deal 5 damage to chosen character. Once again, I don't want to be banishing items now. Like, as we talk, there's other ways to get items. I don't know. It's just like, if you're playing an item in this set, it's because you like it, is my thought process. It's not like we're not living in a world with popsicles where you're banishing items to draw cards. This item is true, or sorry, you're banishing items to heal something. This is something where you have to play a character to banish the item. It's not good. So he is a 1-star just because it is just, it's not going to happen. And it's certainly not going to happen easily. So, unfortunately, 1-star for you, Beast. But we're going back up. We're on a low note, high note. We got a 5 inkable Mushu. He is Ruby Steel. He is a majestic dragon that is a 4/4 stats. He quests for 1, but he has 2 abilities. Intimidating and awe-inspiring, which is whenever one of your characters challenges, they gain resist to that challenge. And then he also has Guardians of Lost Souls, is during your turn, whenever one of your characters banishes another character in a challenge, gain 2 lore. I love this. I put it at 5-star because I think you can do a lot of work with this. Him on his own is not super impressive, but him giving resist to other characters, him helping your characters basically do challenges, survive the challenge, and possibly gain you 2 lore. It's the best of both worlds. You're getting rid of characters and gaining lore. You don't have to pick. You get it all with Mushu. So he is an elusive 5-star card. Now, Mushu's best friend here is Mulan. We have Mulan, who is a 7 inkable Imperial General, which, like, good for her, because in the movie, she was not promoted. They said, you get to go back to the village. And that's it. Sorry. So in this world, she is an Imperial General. And she is a 5/6. She is Ruby Steel, shift cost of 5. She is evasive. She quests for 2 and has an ability of Exceptional Leader. Whenever this character challenges another character, your other characters gain. This character can challenge ready characters this turn. All of that is to say she's a 4-star to me. Yes, there is only 1 shift target, which is a 2-cost, but she can help with removal. So the only downside is really the cost. So she is something where she's an endgame card. You gotta prioritize trying to get to her. She's not a guaranteed card where you know for a fact you're gonna be able to get her out if you don't work hard to get to that ink level. But if you get her out there, my goodness, she's evasive and she's really helping your other guys do some removal there. We're on to items. My favorite. This is an item, and this item is a 3-cost inkable. It's Maurice's Machine, Ruby Sapphire, and its ability reads Breakdown, which is when this item is banished, you may return an item card with 2 costs or less from your discard to your hand. We've already talked about it. Do I need to say it? I don't know. It's not going to happen. So I put it at 1-star. It's just there are 10 items that are 2 costs or less, but you can't banish it in itself. So you have to basically, you have to do the synergies and you're banishing items and like, what are you doing? It's limited. We don't have time. You're doing all these cool tricks and they're questing. I don't know. I don't. It's 1-star. I think obviously Ruby Sapphire is great and all these cards, I'm like 1-star. It's going to be great in constructed, but in limited, it's like we don't have time to do all these cool things. So this card, oh my goodness, 100 stars. Just kidding. It is a 5-cost inkable. It's hey, expanded consciousness. He is a 1/5 shift cost of 3. He has resist 1 and he quests for 2. And he has an ability that reads clear your mind. When you play this character, put all your cards from your hand into your inkwell face down and exerted. So I'll cut to the chase. I put him at 3 stars, and it is... but you'd have to be a mad lad to play this, but some of you are mad lads, but it's so chaotic that I love it. So it could be ink. So you could be like, I'm not doing it. You could chicken out for, he's a chicken. So you could chicken out and use him as ink. But if you have bad card in your hand, like you have like only 2 cards in your hand and this is one of them, and you draw a card and that one's not good either, you could ink and then use this like for ramp, and then right before you top deck, you get to ink a card you don't like. So, and he's kind of funny because what if your opponent has like 5 cards in their hand and then you force them to top deck too? Now, mind you, now they also have 5 ink. So it's a 3-star based on the chaos factor. You truly, as I put, have to be a mad lad to be playing this card. But there are mad lads that walk amongst us, and you could be one of them. All right. I love this card. So we got Little Chicken. There's a big chicken. This is Lady Cluck. She is a 5-cost inkable protective confidant. She's 2/7 and she's got bodyguard and ward. And she quests for 1, so that's not super impressive on its own, but she's a 5-star to me, and that is because there's only 6 bodyguards. She is a big lady, and she's protecting my friends, and I love her. So knowing that it's a bodyguard that you have to put in some work to get through, I just think she's perfect, and I love her, and I'm including her no matter what. So she's 5 stars to me, and look at her. I love it. Anyway, and now we're on the home stretch. We have 2 more cards. We have Jasmine. Jasmine is a 5-cost uninkable. She's an inspired researcher, and she is a 3/5 sapphire steel. Her ability is extra assistance. Whenever this character quests, if you have no cards in your hand, draw a card for each ally you have in play. So she is questing for 2. However, I did put her at 2 stars. And that is because there are 60 allies in this set. So allies are there. They're around. But you have to have no cards in your hand, which I don't love. That's not a goal of mine. So I don't know. It's just like I need to make sure that I've included every single card that I want to. And then I look and see, do I have enough allies to justify this? And if I do, and I have room for her based on my uninkable ratio, like I mentioned a couple times, you want to ink for like 20%, which means a maximum of 8. You can go more than that if you're crazy, but I wouldn't. So knowing that I have to check all these things before I can pick something like her, she is 2 stars just because she is something where I might include, but she's definitely not my first pick. And last but not least, we have Maid Marian. Maid Marian is a sapphire steel 4-cost, inkable, 3/3, questing for 2, and she's got 2 abilities. Her first one is Good Shot. During an opponent's turn, whenever one of your allies' characters is damaged, deal 1 damage to chosen opposing character. So it's kind of like she's hitting you with badminton. Love that. And then you have Fair Play. Your character's named Lady Cluck, gang resist 1. So the dream here is that I've got Lady Cluck and Maid Marian. And yes, that is Magical Christmas Dreamland I'm describing here. But my goodness, I would love to have these 2 cards together. The fact that there's 60 allies and her stats are, she's got healthy stats, means that I put her at 4 stars. And I am dreaming a little bit because, she's, the odds that you have her and Lady Cluck, so let's just kind of ignore that. Knowing that there are 60 allies, it's pretty likely. So I put her at 4 stars because I quite like her. I like the ability to deal 1 damage to opposing characters, especially, don't damage my characters. If you do it, I'm going to badminton back at you. So she's 4 stars, and she is the last card we are rating. That means this is very exciting. We have rated 204 cards. So I am excited about this set. I'm going not to give my final thoughts. This video is just to rank all the duo colors. Of the dual inks, we have a total of 7 5-star cards, in my opinion, and they're in the dual inks, which makes sense because the whole point of dual inks is that because you have 2 inks, you get to have cooler stuff. So it makes sense that the best cards are going to be the dual ink ones. There were 60 of them, so that was a lot. I am quite excited. Next is my final thoughts video. So in the final thoughts video, I'm going to talk about my top 10 cards. So they're all going to be together. I'm going to talk about some things that I've learned, some strategies, kind of taking all the golden pits, all the little kernels of knowledge. I'll put them together on 1 cob so you can have a corn cob of knowledge with all the kernels. So that'll be my last video, and that is going to release on the night before the set comes out, or rather the day before the set comes out. So that way you could watch all these videos a little bit at a time, and then you watch that last video just to really drive home. And then you go to pre-release night or release night and you just destroy because everyone's like, I've never read this card. And you're like, I've read every card. And they're like scared. They're like, how? And then you're like, subscribe to the Lore Keepers Inn. So thank you for coming along on this journey with me. I'm excited to make the last video. I appreciate you guys joining me on this journey. I appreciate the support so much. Comment below whether you agree, disagree. I love kind of getting other people's perspectives. I have learned through this process that I have biases. We all do. And this, I think Limited is a great way to expose what your biases are. So comment below, like, share, subscribe, all those fun things. As always, there is always more room at the inn. And if you don't know where to find us, just take the second star to the right exit and head straight on till morning.